Hello, folks. This Hangout on Air is live. Tonight, we are doing a video about reviewing and scoring beer. I am in Louisiana, and I have natural ice beer. We have from Georgia, John and Nilly. Further up the East Coast in North Carolina at this particular moment, Ronnie S.
What's up, guys?
Even further up the East Coast, we have along the ocean, we have in Brooklyn, New York City, New York State, Michael Komarov.
Hello.
Hello, Michael. And then even further into New England, we have Bumpy Road. We have Jesse with Bumpy Road Brewing. Now, hello, Jesse. I have natural ice. No big deal. No fancy pants here. So let's see. Somebody's got a lot of background noise. I think it's Ronnie S. because you're on the beach. If you can mute it until you talk, that'll be perfect. That'd be great. And let's see. Now, going east into Georgia, what do you have, Mike? Johannes Anali.
Oh, I have. Some of you may know what I bought earlier today, but I was very excited about it. I bought a 6-pack of the Dragon's Milk White Stout. This is a bourbon barrel-aged white stout, 6% alcohol, the most sessionable beer, or stout at least, that New Holland Brewing Company makes. So I'm very excited about this. I've only had a couple white stouts over the years, and well, I actually have only had one, and I thought it was really good. So I'm very excited about this. Dragon's Milk is one of my favorite craft breweries when it comes to bourbon barrel-aged stouts. So cheers, everyone, and I'm very excited about hearing what people have to say about their rating systems, especially Bumpy over there.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know about the Bumpy 50 point.
The Bumpy 50 point, or the 50 point inspection.
Now, over there in the northern part of Carolina, what do you have tonight to drink?
So I got a local IPA over here. It's called Appalachian Mountain Brewery Longleaf IPA.
Never had it.
Yeah, it's out of Boone, North Carolina. I think it's a pretty local one. Nobody seems to have heard of it. 7.1%. I don't see the IBUs. I had one of them so far, and it's pretty good. I like it. It's a typical West Coast type IPA.
Yeah. That's the home of Appalachian State University, Boone, North Carolina.
Okay.
Now head north, and they have a very good football team. Head north, further northeast, Michael in Brooklyn, New York. Do you read us, Michael? I
do. I have Tropical Jammer from 6 Point. Their Jammer series. They're all 4% session beers with sea salt and real fruit juice added.
Well, now that sounds like a lot of the beers I've been reviewing lately on this channel.
What style? Is that a Goza, Michael?
It's a Goza.
Okay.
But there are like 5 different varieties. There's a tropical, there's a berry, there's a ruby, and there's a regular jammer, and one more and a citrus. Those are the 5.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, let me ask you one question off topic. Did you ever go to a Giants game at the Polo Grounds?
I did not.
Heck.
But I did go.
The Polo Grounds was
I did go
down in what year? That was a long time ago.
They probably stopped playing in the Polo Grounds in the late 50s, I guess. They left in 58 to go to San Francisco, so I would guess that would be it. I saw them play in San Francisco.
But
the Mets used to play at the Polo Grounds when they first started.
The Polo Grounds as well.
Yeah, the Mets played there in 1962 and 63.
Mm-hmm.
And the New York Jets, their last season there was 1963. So, but that still is 56 years ago. So
long time ago.
Yeah. Now, Bumpy Road, Jesse, what do you have?
All right. So this was gifted to me today by one of my friends because we do not get this beer or this brewing company in New Hampshire. So I think he did one of those online beer purchase things. So it got delivered to him. But It's out of Nebraska. It is the Cross Strain Brewing Company. And what I have is Fairy Nectar London, double dry hopped hazy IPA. And I guess it was a silver medal winner in 2018 at the Great American Beer Festival.
Wow.
Comes in at 6.2% ABV and 62 IBUs, if you're interested, Mike.
Okay.
That can label art makes me want to go listen to some Grateful Dead albums. All right. And this can art makes me want to, I don't know what it makes me want to do. It makes me want to
Drink.
think of Keystone Ice. All right. Anyway, because they have similar color schemes.
And color, yeah, very interesting. Wasn't like that up until about 2 years ago when they changed their color scheme.
Right. Like that song says, who made who? All right. Now, anyway, well, going west, out west in Kansas, we have Robert. We have the Whiskey Scout.
Hey,
And
can you hear me?
Sure.
Yeah.
I thought he was from Missouri.
What did you
Oh, come on, Ron.
say? What
I
did
thought
you
he
say?
was from. I thought he was from Missouri.
No.
He's from Kansas.
We will not have this hatred on this channel. All right. Tim's Bruce says, what's up, all? What's up, Bumpy? Hey, Tim. You should
Cheers,
join,
Tim.
really. All right. Now, what are you drinking tonight?
I see a growler.
Damn.
Castle Danger Brewery Cream Ale.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're not reviewing these beers tonight, per se, folks. What we're doing, the topic is about reviewing and scoring beer because, for the last, let's see, I've been doing these things for nearly 9 years. There's been controversy off and on about how to score the beer and how to review the beer. Now, when I started doing the beer reviews in 2009, written, not video until the next year, I was following an old website that's no longer around called The Beer in Me. And they had a very good, to me, a good system. It was like a 5-point scale, and it was graded, it was like little levels within that 5-point scale. And I'll say real fast what they had. If you had 1 star, it was poor. 2 stars was fair. 2.5 was good. 3 was very good. 3.5 was excellent. 4 was most excellent. Sounds familiar, right? 5 was 4.5 was outstanding, and 5 was world class. Now, what I did was I developed that because that website is no longer around. But I developed that scale on a 100-point scale, and I still use that terminology this up until 2019, even now, because I thought it made a lot of sense. So then the Beer Advocate has a similar setup. Rate Beer has a similar 100-point scale setup, but they'll do it beer overall and then in the style. And they have a lot of oddity with that because they'll say, well, for the beer for beer overall, this is a 92. In the style, it's a 70. So I joke sometimes. I say, well, for beer overall, it's awesome. In the style, it's okay, which is comical, but I guess that's how they're looking at it. And then Untappd has your little check-ins, and I have a lot of problems with them because you don't have to really write a review. You can just punch in some numbers and go quick. Everything's got to be in a rush. You got to hurry, right? So we're going to go out west, and then we'll go west to east because that seems easiest for me to keep things together. And I will read comments in the next 50 minutes, 48 minutes. So the Whiskey Scout, what do you think about reviewing and scoring beer?
Well, I use the same score system I kind of sort of use for whiskey. And my score system is real simple. Now, Okay, it's simple in some aspects because I've read a lot of books on whiskey where they score whiskey and they use different parameters to score with. So you kind of, after a while, you develop. I wouldn't score whiskeys at first for a long time, but then you develop a certain feel. But even now, I feel that spirits that I've reviewed in the past may score lower or higher now than they did back then on re-review, simply because your palate changes.
Yeah.
And as you go through it, your palate slowly adapts. So early on, when I finally decided to come up with a scoring system, I had 95 or above was Nirvana. 90 to 94 was excellent. Buy it when you can. 85 to 89 is a good solid product, especially if it appeals to your palate. 80 84, buy, try once, possibly, buy again on certain days when it really feels, some days you feel like certain things, and when that feels like that's your thing, that's kind of how I do it. 70, 79. Once we get below the 79 mark, there's serious flaws.
Yeah.
From 80 to 90 mark, there's usually a couple of flaws in there that keeps it from actually going over to the 90 mark. Once you get above 90, you're splitting hairs in my case.
Yeah.
And but once you get below 70, there's usually some pretty serious flaws. And basically, once I get to 65 to 69, I just write no. 60 to 64 is hell no. And 59 down to 1 is dog bowl water.
All right. I like kind of it in scale because it reminds me of my scale. Now, here's what I do, and then we'll go on to everybody. We just want to keep the momentum going.
Right.
We've had videos in the past where it gets bogged down, and then it gets into like, well, if you were washing clothes, what kind of colors would you? And it's like, I don't know, nobody wants to hear all that. All right, now, taking a little sip of this natural ice. I have updated my reviewing in the last 3 or 4 years, 3 years, and I think the person that was criticizing me was right in a way. So I said, even though he irritates me to no end, and he won't show his real face, and he's one of these people that call you out all day, but they don't use their real name or their face because that's how brave they are. But I said, but even though he's like that, and he'll come on later and say, why are you talking about me? Not that I've named any names, my friends. But I said he has a lot of his points were valid, actually. The tone was not good. See how that can work? But the point he made about my scoring, I thought, you know what, he's right. I'm going to change it. I'm going to modify it. So what I started doing was adopting the college rating scale. And so what I do, I'll go very quickly. You might want to mute it, Ryan, because it's getting a lot of background.
Sure.
Just because outside that happens. We know about noise in my videos. I would say that if it's below a 60, you can't drink it. It's undrinkable. It's an F. I don't know how people could say, oh, that beer's a 1 out of 100. Really? So the beer's a 1 out of 100. And then I've had people say, oh, it's a norm scale. It's all relative to other beers. Well, I mean, I can grasp these concepts. You know what I'm saying? But still in all, you're comparing it to the world-class beers like West Lateran 12 and all this. Fine. But even with all of that, even if you're using a norm scale, how could you survive drinking a 1 out of 100? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
To die, it would be poison. And I'm saying if you're below a 60, it's an F. It's undrinkable. Because think about that. If you're drinking a beer that's a 59 out of 100, that means it's a 41% bad. And how are you consuming this product that is 41% horrible. I have done that, and you know what? It came right back up.
Might have been better on the way back up than it was going down.
Yeah, because some of it was my body.
You added some extra ingredients that made it better.
It was not going to be a product I could keep down. Now, I don't know who would want to drink that. And we had that conflict a couple of years ago. And I used the church's chicken analogy, and that caused a lot of controversy. But to me, I couldn't go along with that, because I'm saying if you're going to make reviews and give scores, you got to be able to defend it.
Right.
If you're wrong, like I was really, essentially, but I was using the beer and meat grading scale, then admit it. Just admit it. I mean, this is not like that important, okay? And I think that goes back to this idea that reviewing beer is some kind of, it's important, man. Well,
Right.
you might think it's important. I don't. It's fun. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, right. And and I agree with you on a lot of your points. And I found that over the last 6 months or so, especially on my whiskey reviews, that if I'm going to give it a grade, especially less than 90, I need to point out the flaws that I find with it. It's you just can't say, oh, it's just an 85 like I used to do, because people are going, well, why is he calling this an 85 and maybe this an 87?
Right.
And
What's the problem with the 15% deficit? Where's the,
there's certain flaws. Maybe it's got not a long enough finish to carry it over. Maybe the profile changes too much or not enough through the development. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have, because it's such a subjective endeavor that you have to somehow quantify what you are trying to say.
I agree. I agree. I'm going to go on and give the rest of my parameters, and then or my levels, and then we'll go on. So 60 to 69 is poor. It tastes bad. You don't enjoy it. It's not a good beer. You would never recommend it, and you shouldn't buy it. Okay? You can drink it. It's not coming back up. But every sip, you have to negotiate, and you hate. I've had many beers like that. Thankfully, not too many, but I've had them. It's a horrible product. The people should be ashamed. And sometimes I have to even admire their gall to put the product on the market. In some ways, you admire just the gall they have to perpetuate this product onto the world. Okay, now, of course, if it's
somebody had to try it and drink it before they put it out to the masses, right? Somebody's got some really big balls or some very poor taste buds.
Sometimes I think it happens that when they do that, they don't want to lose money on the product. So they subtly, they maybe give it a one-off name or brand it as a one-off for the distillery or the brewery. That way they can just move it along. It's gone. Everybody will forget about it in a couple of years, and everybody just goes back to normal.
Right.
That happens a lot.
I drink this Ron Rio white rum from McCormick, and I was thinking to myself, who tasted this and said it should be on the shelf? It is beyond the pale. Okay, so that's the, and you can spend a lot of time talking about these because they're so dreadful that you, like Robert's saying and John and Neely saying, how could this be released? All right, and I've had some craft beers like that too, and I could name names. 70 to 79 is fair. And there's levels within this 10%, you understand? It's fair. I mean, it's okay. You could take it or leave it. You'd probably prefer to leave it. Won't make you sick, but you'd never recommend it. And if you never had it again and for the rest of your life, you'd be delighted. You would never miss it. And you have a lot of animosity towards it, but it is okay. It's not technically bad. But in some ways it is, because it's like, come on, you're a big company and the best you can do is just see. So you could really do a lot with a C, and it would all be negative. All right, now the next level is 80 to 89. That's good. It's a good beer or wine or liquor. You enjoy it. It's good. But in my booklet, that's not saying much. 2019, with all the automated ability in the world. Hello, Alex. Now, Alex, you might want to mute it because of background noise issues, but we're going to get back to you. So I like B beers. You know why? Because B means good, either B minus, B, or B plus. There's levels of goodness. But it's a good beer or wine or liquor. You said, oh, it's good. Now, would you recommend it? You might say, yeah, if the price is right, you know, it's good. But to me, a lot of stuff is good, right? Big deal, it's good. I went to the store and I bought a beer, it was good. Fine. But if I pay a lot of money for it and it's only good, we got a problem. I'm getting kind of irritated because I'm drinking a good beer tonight. In fact, I could talk this beer up and talk about how it's actually an A minus. I won't because of the nature of the video, but I'm noticing.
It's more than an A minus though. Natural. That's a or Keystone. It's a solid A for a nice beer.
Yeah, no, actually, I drank Keystone earlier. This is natural ice.
Oh, natural ice. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so and then the last area, or the second to last area, is 90 to 99. That would be in the A. It's either excellent, most excellent, or outstanding. This is a really good beer. It's excellent. You enjoy it. You would always drink it again. You would always recommend it. You would. There may be deficits because now 90 is a lot different than 99, right? So that gives you a lot of leeway. I don't know why people can't grasp that. But so, and this is a good example of what I'm drinking. I can get a 30-pack for $15.98. Okay. Is it perfect? No, it would be 100. However, it's thoroughly enjoyable. I've been drinking it for 25 years. Sorry, 23 years. It's cost effective. It always does what it's supposed to do. It's always the same, and so on. So it needs to be in that 90 to 99 range. Obviously closer to 90 than 99. Only a fool would buy it and think it's a 99. Now, so now the last area in my scale, and then I'm going to turn it over to the next person up the coast, would be 100 or above. This is very rare. The chance that you in your life will drink a 100 or above is not really that good. This will be a very expensive beer. This will probably be $10.99, $11.99, $15.99 for an 11.2 ounce bottle. Okay. Yeah. This will be one of the few beers you ever drink in your life.
Don't limit it though to 11.2, because by saying that you're assuming that all of the world-class beers are going to be like European.
In my experience, that has been the case generally.
Oh,
however,
right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's 100 or above, meaning it's better than perfect. It's everything it should be and way better. This is like not going to happen. All right. You're not going to be able to just make pages of world-class beers you had. And a lot of people use world-class loosely. You know, and I was telling my friend David last weekend, I said, no, not world-class. I said, what you're describing is outstanding. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. But are you telling me that this beer is above 100? He wasn't pressing the issue. He was not going to say no. He wasn't going to say, yeah, it's above 100. So he kind of backed off on that. So you may drink beer your whole life, or wine or liquor, and never hit a world-class beer, which is fine because most people do not want to pay that kind of money. All right, so that's my scale. And I think, to me, it's not really a scale I invented. I just co-opted it. but I think it makes a lot of sense. So now up the coast, I'm on the Gulf Coast. We're going to the interior part of Georgia. John and Nilly, what is your scale?
Oh, okay. Wow. This is pretty cool. This is pretty intense. I like this conversation. So I agree with your scale. The A to F range based on the school system. Okay. 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, 60 to 69 is a D, and then anything below 60 is an F. I do differ a little bit on the world class from you. I think a 98 and up is world class, because at that point I'm being so nitpicky and it's just kind of snobby if I get to be, you know what I mean? Like there are so many beers that I've had that I could say, okay, this is world class. This could be 100, but I've had beers that I prefer to this, whether or not it's my personal palate or whether or not the beer is just actually better. Who am I to say? Because it's my personal opinion. So for me, a 98 to 100 is world class. A 96 and 97 is excellent. And I always say in my reviews, getting to world class. It's almost world class. It's getting there. And the thing with me with reviewing, I don't use a scale like Bumpy does, which we'll get to him soon. I'm excited to hear what he has to say. But I do use the same system you do, Ron. And my components for rating beer are this. You pour the beer, the appearance with the head, and I know you go through this too, but I don't think you mentioned it as like I'm going to go through here now. You look at the appearance, and you have to think for the style. And that's the hardest part. People don't know how to rate within the style. So you look at the appearance, you look at the style, you look at what the style guidelines are for that beer. So you look at the appearance, you look at the head, then you go to the aroma. And then once you get through that, obviously you go to the palate, you taste it. And then on the palate, there are three main components for me. Body, carbonation, and your malt and hop character, which I guess you could split those up, but the malts and the malt and the hops, they kind of combine. So I guess the balance would be the other big component on the palate. And then you have the finish. Is it crisp? Is it clean? Is it refreshing? Is it appropriate for the style of beer that you're drinking? And once you get through all of that, you rate the beer based on the same system that you just talked about, which I don't need to go into detail about. I mean, that's what makes sense to me because I grew up, as most of us did with the school system rating A, B, C, D, F as our, I don't know, that makes sense to most people. So I use that. But the biggest challenge for me with rating beer is the style. I do not like super piney, super hoppy West Coast style IPAs. But when I review them, that's
another part coming in.
Right. So when I look at those beers, when I review those beers, I look at the style guidelines, and I don't know every little intricate detail, but I know for the most part, I've been drinking beer long enough. I know what a certain style, what the basic components of that style should be and what the beer should taste like. And depending on how good or bad it is within that style, I know how to rate it accordingly, but I don't particularly care for the style. Perfect example, West Coast IPAs. But I know what makes a good West Coast IPA, so I base my reviews and my ratings on the style guidelines. And it's difficult when you don't like a style. Like, I know it's difficult for you, Ron. You're very humble when it comes to this, and I appreciate that about your reviews because I love sours and gozes, and I know you don't, but you always rate them fair within the style of beer that you're talking about. And you do the same thing with the club. I mean, the malt beverages, all of that stuff. I mean, you did the Club Tails or the Mixed Tails review the other day, and I could tell that it wasn't your particular thing, but you rated it accordingly to what that product was meant to be. So that's the hardest part in beer reviewing is to be able to rate within the style. And I think you do a good job of it. I try to do a good job of it. I think everybody on this panel does a pretty good job of it. But there's a lot of people that slam certain styles or certain products because of the simple fact that they don't like them. And then you get into the whole separate conversation where you talk about
that might have to even be done in August.
Also depends on the brewery.
But then you get into a whole separate thing where you talk about craft versus macro.
Yeah, right. That's part of my axe to grind rant.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get off onto a rant, but I just wanted to bring that up to kind of go about what I'm saying here with my rating system. Is I do the same rating system you do, and I know you do this as well within the style. You have to be honest about your personal taste, and if you don't like a particular style, that's fine, but you have to be willing to look at the style guidelines and rate according to the guidelines, whether or not your personal taste adhere to that style. Right. I'll be quiet now, but that's what I wanted to say about.
It's the same way with.
And also,
it's the same way with whiskeys. I don't care for ryes, for instance, but ryes are very polarizing for me. I do like a good rye, but 90% of the ryes I don't like. So when I review a rye, I have to make sure I present that up front. I tell the viewer this is not maybe my particular what I enjoy the most, but I list the reasons why. I mean, and if you're honest with your viewers, I think that's the best you can do.
Yeah, right. Like you can always kind of sniff out these fakes, these marketeers, because they play games, friends, and I don't like that. If you don't like it, just say it. You know, we can get through all the flim flam. You know, we can see through that. I mean, I can. I'm sure you can too. Now, and I like what you're saying there. If you don't like it, just say up front. Look, I don't really like the style, but I'm going to try to the best of my ability, at least, to give it.
And I think all of us, Jay. I'm sorry, Jay, but I think all of us are pretty much straightforward when we say that, whether it be a sour, even some of the blonde ales I have, you know, like for example, sours. I'm not a fan of sours. I'm not a fan of the fruit flavored beers, but I'll be honest and let them know when I review them. I say, okay, this is my honest opinion about this. You know, I'm going to give it because for the style, this is the score I give. But for me personally, it's not something I get all the time. And I kind of leave it right there, you know. And then what's amazing is that these folks who want to get on and, you know, when they find out who makes it, you know, if it's a brewery from Missouri or you know, has linkage to, you know, Anheuser-Busch InBev or Miller or whatever in Wisconsin, they'll say, oh, no. But if it was some other independent, then they'll praise it. So.
Well, that's a whole nother topic. That's why this thing might have to go till August.
Exactly. Right. We won't get into that tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's another problem. With, people will say, well, the beer is awesome, but I don't like the company. So I'm going to give it a C-. But wait, wait a minute. You just said the beer was awesome. So now you're rating it according to political guidelines. This is a real problem. But that's another topic. It's like, I tried to explain this on another hangout years ago. I said, if I was drinking Emperor Palpatine's beer, I might say, look, you know, Emperor Palpatine, I don't really like your evil empire, you know, but I got to admit the beer is pretty awesome. You know, so I mean, you know, you're like Luke Skywalker, you're trying to overthrow the empire and whatnot, but you admit the product. You got to. A lot of people have problems with looking at stuff in a certain context or sort of like compartmentalizing, and I have a real problem when people will take positions that the beer is bad because they don't like what the company did with best practices with child labor. I mean, you could just think of anything, who they supported for politics or whatever. Not that I say beer companies should do that, but you should look at the product as it exists, almost like it's in a stasis. You know what I'm saying? Like it's in a different universe. Just my opinion. Jean-Pierre, one more thing. What are you drinking? Oh, Jean-Pierre.
Yeah, I am. Hey, hi. I am drinking Jenny Jen cream ale tonight. 99 cents for the 24-ounce can, and that's what I'm sipping on tonight. 5.6% ABV.
Heck, we can't get it. All right, now going up the road, we got a lot of traveling to do, Jean-Pierre. Going up the road to North Carolina, what is your ideology, so to speak, on reviewing beer, Ronnie S?
Well, all right. Just first off, I don't really review beer. I don't have any videos out on my channel like you guys do. But and I'm gonna go real quick because I'm interested in hearing the 50-point bumpy inspection. Well, on the beer reviewing, I like the 0 to 100 scale, the school system scale. I think it makes sense, like John says. A lot of people can recognize that. Whether it's going to be a D, if it's like 65 to 70, or so on and so forth. 70 to 70 to 80 is a C,
Right.
and like that. I agree with that. I think that makes sense. I like that scale, as opposed to doing like the 1 to 5 reviews that some people do, where sometimes they'll say like a 3.75 or a 4, things like that. I like the 1 to 100 scale better, because I think it just makes a little bit more sense. People can relate to it more. But you can always just do the math and divide it down. If you're gonna give a 4 out of 5, it's gonna be an 80 out of 100.
Right.
And then so people will give a 4 out of 5 and they'll say it's a pretty good beer. But then if you give them the 100 scale, they'll say, oh, I wouldn't give it an 80 out of 100. I give it a 90. But you got to do the math, and you got to say it. Then it has to be equivalent,
Oh, right. That drives me mad. People tell me, yeah, you said it all. You said it all, Ronnie.
Okay.
Leave it to the account.
And then with what John was saying about the style too, whether you like it or not, and John was also saying, if you don't like the style, just come out and say it, and then do an honest review of, which you guys usually do. I know Ron and John do that, and I watch your channels a lot, so I know if you don't like the style, you'll come out and just say you don't like the style, but you'll give it a review based on the quality of the beer in what that style is, and you'll be honest about it. So, like you said, that might be another topic, but that it is important too, because a lot of people don't do that, and they'll just slam the beers because they don't like the style.
Yeah. I can't live with that. No, that's terrible. That's terrible. That's been my gripe since 2009. People slamming the beer because they say I don't like the style. But hell, don't.
And they do it from both sides. The malt liquor community doesn't like the craft beer, and the craft beer guys don't like the malt liquor, and it's silly because it's just beer, And
Yeah.
whether you
Very
like certain
silly.
beers,
Very silly.
yeah, it is very silly. I mean, beer's beer, and if you like a Keystone Ice, you can also like a very good craft beer at the same time.
Exactly.
Well, the problem is you got all this factionalism and people trying to make stances, to say, I'm going to take a stand. Well, you don't take a stand. That's not a
Yes,
beer
a stand of what?
Yeah, it's not a beer review. That's like a political statement. Why don't you go do something else, You don't need to make a stand.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, I didn't get on here to watch you take a stand. Now, like with Greg, his big fixation is dates. But
Which is okay. It makes sense because you do have to have a good date.
That makes sense because we want fresh beer. Okay, so, but he's not saying, well, I don't like that beer because that guy's CEO said he supported this candidate. He never talked about that.
No.
He just says, why can't you put easily decipherable beer dates, canning or bottling dates on the label? This is not difficult. I mean, he goes a little overboard with it, but still,
It's a legitimate gripe.
it's a legitimate gripe, and I've always said that. I mean, we kid about it and stuff, but still, it's a legitimate gripe. Now,
You know what I hate? Sometimes you buy a 6-pack of cans that are in a box, and you can't find anywhere on the box the date that you're supposed to find. I've come across this currently, and then so you got to buy the 6-pack, and then you don't know what the date is, and then finally once you open it up, you can see on the can, on the bottom of the can, what it says, but it doesn't. Sometimes they don't put it out on the opener of the 6-pack.
right, and then you're just taking a big risk.
Yeah, it's a big risk, and it's an $11.99 risk or something like that. You know, so you
Yeah,
put some money into it.
Yeah.
Now,
Open that 6-pack and pull one out, look at it, and then if it's not fresh, put it back in there and kind of close it up and put it in the back of the display.
I try to be a good consumer and not, mess
Well,
with them.
but you're still being you're being a conscious consumer by doing that. But yeah, no, I know. Anyway, sorry.
no, I agree with that. Now, Michael Komarov.
Can you guys hear all right, or is there still background noise?
Well, there's still background noise, but if you
It's
want
not
to,
bad. You sound not bad.
if you want to mute it, it's up to you. It's not too bad. I'll let you know if it gets out of hand. All right, Michael.
Okay.
I also use John's evaluation system the same way that he evaluates. I do that with all the different points till I get to the point where I decide to rate the beer. And it's funny, my rating system when I'm on with you is the 100-point scale. But all the other ones I do with my other groups is on a 1 to 10 scale with quarter, half, and 3/4 points.
Well, still convertible.
And I do the same thing when I evaluate here, and then I convert it to 100. So it's the same kind of thing. But the bottom end of the scale cannot be used unless one of the group members messes up. Because if somebody brings a 2 or a 3, they're going to hear about it. I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm just saying, in other words, if the rating of the group turns out to average 4.2, you're going to hear about it. It should never average less than 5. That's on my theory. I don't know if it works, whatever. Because if and we're talking macro or craft, anything that's brewed well should not be less than 50, which is what Ron's saying. And Jay, what you're saying about the less than 59 on the scale. Now, it has happened, and when it happens, it could be because the beer is old. It could be because the beer was mishandled. Sometimes it could be in a hot place. It could be new, and you didn't store it well, and that can ruin the beer too. And that usually is the reason for lower ratings, whatever. The averages among the ones I do are always well over 7, and there's a lot in the recent stuff we're doing above 8 and 9, and it's the same kind of scale that you're using, A, B, C, D, F kind of scale, where I'm with everybody in terms. I guess I'm a little different than John because I don't give hundreds, and I know John does give a few hundreds, which are fine. There's nothing, if you find something that's the best thing you've ever had, go for it, because I can't say anything. So far, I'm looking for that. I haven't had a Westervelt 12. Maybe that would be something that would push me over the line. I don't know. I've never had that. I've given 99s, several.
And I appreciate that about you, Michael, because here's the thing with the hundreds, that I'm reluctant to do it, but I will if it's the best thing I've ever had. But the problem with that is later in life, I'm going to find something that is probably better than that. But I already gave 100 to the previous beer. I said the other day on Stout Sunday that the Boulevard Whiskey Barrel Stout was 100, and it was the new standard for stouts. Okay, so by your logic, and I should think about this as well, what happens when I find a stout that's better than that? Is it 101?
Wait a minute. That's right. That's what I'm about to say. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
So
You're not limited, because now you went through like a time where you went through like a black hole.
It's not okay. The way I see it though is it's not like that. At that time, when I reviewed that beer on Stout Sunday, I was like, "This is the best. This is the new standard. This is incredible. It's perfect. I love it." So I gave it 100. Okay, there's been very few beers that I do that with. Eventually, I'm sure as much beer as I drink, I'm going to find something that's better than that someday. Okay, so then what you do is you go back and then you revisit the beer, or you do another review, or you do a side by side or whatever. But you have to, at the time that I reviewed the beer, it was the best beer I ever had. It was perfect. I've never had anything that equaled that, so I gave it 100. It's very rare, but it happens. And I feel like if I were to give it a 99 just for the sake of saying that it wasn't perfect for my palate at that time would be a dishonesty.
Okay.
So that's why I do it. And I know at some point I'm going to go back and I'll be like, this is better. And I'll bump my rating down to a 99 or a 98. But I'm living in the here and now when it comes to this type of thing with the beer reviews.
Yeah.
So
It's all about the moment.
that's where I'm at. It's psychologically when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, if I can't think of anything that I've had better than this, and I've given the Goose Island and I've given the CBS, I've given them hundreds. This is good, as good, if not better. It's got to be a 100. And then years from now, I can look back on it and readjust that score, but it's got to be in the present for me.
And like Robert is about to talk, but this is like, you got to watch it, but this is like David Bowman before you went into the monolith,
Yep.
and David Bowman after you went into the monolith.
I know. Yeah.
You're not gonna. You may never be the star, baby. You may never come back at the end of the movie, and you're looking down on the earth, and now you're hyper evolved, and you went into the monolith. But so you might always just be in that part before you went into the monolith, and you'll be in the 90s, and you'll be satisfied because you're drinking a lot of great beer, 90 to 99.
Yeah, yep, I agree.
I'm talking about the 2001: A Space Odyssey from 1968. And that's kind of like what we're talking about. Like you're either pre going into the monolith or post. Now, but so you don't really experience too many of those hyper evolved things.
No, I don't. That's why I'm okay with giving the occasional 100. And you've done the same thing, Ron. You've given the Chimay. When you give a world-class rating, that's a perfect score. And you don't do that very often, but if you were to find something better than the West Flaterian 12 or the ones that you've given that score, then you have to kind of go back and look at it from a different perspective. Well, I gave this a perfect score, but I just tasted something that was better than that. So now what do I do about the 100 that I gave this other beer?
And the way I feel now, it ain't even going to happen anymore. And when I bought West Flaterian 12, you know how much that cost me 6 years ago? Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. 7 years ago. $85 a six pack. Now, if I'm paying $85 a six pack, it better be in the monolith. No.
It better be darn good, world class to pay for that price, right?
Right. It should be.
Right. I mean, this is not, how many people buy beer for $85 a six pack? I don't know too many. And was it worth it? Well, not really, but I mean,
all right, that's what I wanted to ask you, Ron. Is it?
It was like a $25
$85? Would you
$25 bottle of wine?
Would you recommend buying that six pack because it was so good?
Yeah, I would have to recommend it. Yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it. If you see, and it's authentic, it's not fake. If you see the real deal, like we got, and believe me, it's sold out in 1 hour across the United States. In 1 hour across the United States. And they were.
Would you buy it? You bought it online?
Oh, they were guarding the trains with armed guards.
Wow.
They didn't want the train to get attacked. Look, that was a great day. But
what beer is this?
It's from Belgium.
West Flaterian 12.
Is it Abbey beer?
No, it's a Trappist beer from a monastery.
Kind of like Chimay, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not like the kind of thing you do every day. You know what I'm saying? So I would say, yeah, it is worth it. It is worth it.
No, you don't. Yeah, you don't do it every day, but it. Okay, that's what I was wondering. Is it worth it to spend the extra money and try that?
Yes. Alex, you are at community.
What's up, Ron?
Hey, Alex, how you
Michael?
doing?
What's up, man? What's up, John Henderson Pierre? It's nice hearing from you, buddy.
Good. So you at a baseball game?
Yes, we're at a baseball game, yes. Because of the stupid thunderstorms, they seem to want to end the game. But now they're on the field, so we'll see what happens.
Alex, who's winning?
Alex, nature
Well,
is never
actually,
stupid.
the Wildcats are winning.
Oh, that's good. That's Alex.
Nature, nature is never stupid.
What'd you say, Ron?
Yeah, that's true.
I said nature is never stupid.
Oh,
Hey, Alex, we're still live doing the beer review thing. I'll text you when we go off the air. So, is that okay?
that's fine, John.
You're making a lot of noise. We're just trying to get through this here.
That's fine. I'll be back on in a little bit then. Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
All right, Alex.
your close-up shot of your ear reminded me of a 1971 Pink Floyd album, which I own, by the way. Now, going on even further northeast, and we're going to close out. Before we close out, I'll read all the comments. I'm sure there's a number. We're going to go to Jesse, Bumpy Road. He has a very interesting scale.
He's still there. Oh, he's still there.
Everybody's waiting for this.
Got a lot of
This is
patience. And I'm
this is the
sorry.
start.
Famous 50
Drum
point
roll.
bumpy system.
50 points.
Yeah. And, occasionally there's some fireworks that will be going off in the background, so I apologize if there's loud pops.
Yeah, that's cool. That adds to
All
it.
right.
Hey, early 4th of July Eve, right? Why not?
That's right. Yeah.
Why not, Jesse?
Got neighbors and stuff, so it's is what it is. So first off, I'll just
Even
say
in my neighborhood. Sometimes I wonder if it is. I wonder if it is fireworks. Maybe some guns.
Yeah, no guns. So when I first started my beer tastings, I call them, because I am not a beer reviewer. I haven't gone through any schooling, anything like that, so I didn't feel confident enough to call myself a beer
Bubby, I
reviewer.
don't think any of us have gone through any beer reviews.
But there
Hold on
are
a second.
some out there that
Hold
just
on
have
here.
they
Bumpy's
have
not a
excellent
beer
palates.
reviewer. Of course, you're a beer reviewer, dude.
I do beer tastings, but when I first started my beer tastings, I would not give anything a rating. It was just basically I would drink. I would try to describe like what I was getting out of the beer, how it looked, the aromas, the taste, and then I would kind of just say whether or not I like it or didn't like it, type deal. And to that, doing that brought a lot of satisfaction to myself, because it allowed me to actually enjoy the beers more. Because before I wouldn't think about it. I would just be drinking a beer. Oh, I like it, but I wouldn't be thinking about like what is involved in this beer. So doing that, it's really helped me enjoy beers more. So then everybody else that I watch always seems to be rating beers. So I decided, after reading a book, it was by I can't think of his name now. Charlie Papazian. He wrote the Incomplete Joys of Homebrewing. He was, the leader of the Homebrewing Association, all that stuff for a number of years. Helped put it all together, and he had this scale at the end of the book. So I took his scale. It was a 50-point scale, and it's pretty much used for like beer judging and stuff. Probably mostly for homebrewing. So my scale has gone through tweaks I had to think about quite a bit, and it's probably still going to go through tweaks, because I'm going to find a flaw in my whole scaling, which I already have, and listen to you guys like pointing out the difference, like breaking down, like Ronnie said, a 4 out of 5 beer is only an 80, but it's like you look at the 4 out of 5, you're thinking it's like a 90, but you really think about the math on it, it's an 80. It's just kind of above average almost. So with what I like about the scale that I do now, I have to think about, and I don't know every style, like exactly what each style is supposed to represent, but I just have to go by what I've read, what I've learned, what I've tasted in my life. So I have to think about the style of the beer. And then I also, because a lot of these professional breweries should be able to hit a style pretty much spot on if they're putting out a certain beer. So I had to also include my own thoughts and opinions. I had to take other beers within that style that I've had and enjoyed and kind of think about the beer that I'm doing my 50-point inspection on and put the numbers to it like that. To go just real quick with the breakdown, basically, it would be a 0 to 20 would basically be there's lots of flaws in the beer. I mean, you can have a beer that has some flaws but still comes out at a higher scale. But to get 0 to 20, this thing has to be infected. There's got to be something royally wrong with it. So you're probably never going to see a 0 to 20 out of any of my videos. But the next up from that would be something that the basically 21 to 30, which is going to put it what they call a good rating. I was trying to add numbers to it. I changed them to what the book actually has, which is like really flawed, good, and then you go to very good, which would be the next scale from that 30 to 39, which would be very good, and then from 40 to 50, you're in the excellent range. If you wanted to try to break those down, I was thinking about that, listening to you guys talk about your stuff. I think that like out of like a 5-point scale, I think a 45 up to 50 would probably fall in the lines of like a 4.5 to 5 range. Just to try to break it down number wise, I think that would kind of correspond. But what goes into the 50-point inspection, it has 5 separate categories, and 3 of those categories have subcategories in which they each have a certain number. So like I'll just go with the quickest one, which is appearance. So you get a total score of 0 out of 6 for appearance. Now the subcategories on that, how you get to that total 0 out of 6, is you have color, clarity, and head retention. So thinking about style and stuff like that, you have to basically look at the color of the beer. Does it kind of match up to what it's supposed to be? If it's saying it's an amber lager and the thing is straw colored, the color is way off on that. So it's probably going to score 0, unless, I think it's really beautiful. I might give it a 1 out of 3, Then you got like the clarity of the beer. If it's supposed to be hazy, murky, awesome, great. If it's not, if they don't list that it's like unfiltered or anything like that, and it's got a haze factor to it, I might have to deduct some points. That's another 0 to 3 on that. So you're already up to the 6. No, 0 to 2. I'm sorry. So it's 0 to 2 for color, 0 to 2 for clarity, and then it's 0 to. Oh, it's 0 to 2 for the head retention too. I don't know why. I was having trouble with the math in that. But so same thing with the head retention. If it's like a wheat ale and it should have a good sturdy head that lasts, and it doesn't, that's where you kind of deduct some points. Then you got the aroma, same thing. It's got 3 subcategories. Flavor, it's got the 1 through 19 total scoring on that, or 0 through 19, with 5 different subcategories all underneath that. And then you go into like the body of the beer, which is a 1, or I wrote down 1 through 5 because it's going to have some kind of body. So I don't know, 0 could really work, but you got that. And then the overall, which is kind of how I just put in my own interpretation based off like what else have I had in the style? Have I really enjoyed more? So I think some of the scoring I can be a little more free on, with that. But it just, to me, it kind of just helps break it down a bit more to where you can give even a beer that it doesn't really have some great flavors to it. Maybe it had a really nice aroma. Maybe it had a really nice appearance. So it's still going to get some decent scores on those 2, even if the flavor score is lower. And then if it has a good body and if, overall kind of satisfied with it, it could still end up being within that like 30 range, So That's the 50-point inspection, pretty much in a nutshell.
And if you guys, I just want to say one thing real quick, and then I promise I'll shut up. But we did the KBS examination on Bumpy's channel with Alex, myself, Bumpy, and I think Drunken One. And we went through the Bumpy 50-point inspection, step by step. And if you watch it, Bumpy was very good about going through it. And it's weighted differently, obviously, than the scales that we use, because each category, like flavor, gets a lot more, it's weighted a lot more heavily than some of the other characteristics or the other components of the beer. So when it gets all added up, I gave the KBS, I believe, a 98 or 99. And then we did the Bumpy 50-point inspection when we did the examination of KBS on your channel, Bumpy. And I think mine was like a 46. 5 or 46 out of 50. And even though if you take 46 or 40, it divided by, it may not be exactly matching to what I did when I did a 99 out of 100, but things are weighted a little bit differently. And based on that particular scale, it still fell with like 46 to 50. It still fell within the outstanding to world-class range. So even though the direct math, 46 divided by 50, whatever that comes out to be, it's not 99 out of 100.
No, 92.
But based on the 92. So based on the scale, though, and the weighted differences that you're utilizing, it still made sense. And I appreciated you going through that with myself and Alex and Drunken, doing that thing with the examination with Alex. And I liked how we went through all that.
I watched that.
Very interesting to me, the dip, because the scales are different. Okay, but yours at least makes sense, Bumpy, because you can break it down individually. What bothers me, and there's nobody on the panel tonight, I don't think, that uses a 5-point scale, but there are a few people that I've talked to and that have left comments on my channel that have talked about a 2.5 out of 5 is right in the middle. So it's 50% bad, it's 50% good. Well, on my scale, that's a 50, that's an F. But somebody explained it to me in a way that's like, okay, it's 50, it's a 2.5 out of 5, but that's average because you're still getting, and I don't know, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me, and I wish we had somebody on here that rated like that.
How could that be average? If it's a 50,
That's
a 50
the kind of
is a
stuff
failing
that
grade.
bothers me. At least your system it's weighted.
Right.
William Kepley,
My score is
William
a 1 to 10
Kepley
score.
does the same thing. He uses the maybe it's the Rate Beer or the one of the other websites where every category is rated differently.
Beer Advocate.
Beer Advocate utilizes a similar system, which still doesn't make 100% sense.
If you got a 50 as a grade on your test, that's not average.
a
You
2.5
you failed. You failed.
Yes, that's the thing that I want to understand is when people give a 2.5 out of 5.
You have grade point averages, though. That what's the top grade point average you can get?
Right.
Like 4.
Yeah, but Bumpy, no, I commend you for coming on here tonight and explaining your system, and I think it works, and I appreciate. And I know some of the
That's why
stuff.
I got into the conflict. That's why I got into the conflict with Harry, because I said, wait a minute. I said, well,
Yeah, and I guess I wish we had some more people that. I guess what I'm saying is, Bumpy explained himself very well, and I wanted to sit here and tear him down, but I can't do it because he
explained it. Look,
he explained it very well.
But what I told him was, I said, wait a minute. I said, if you went to Church's Chicken and you got a meal and you asked them at the checkout counter and you said, hold on, is this good chicken? And they told you, well, it's 45% bad, but it's 55% good.
Versus Kentucky Fried or Hearts or Popeyes.
Well, that's the thing, though. That I mean, the inner chicken could be like all like greasy, nasty, but if the covering, the casing of it's awesome and delicious, like the skin.
Now you wouldn't eat it. You'd say, "I want my money back." Leave. You wouldn't eat it. No way.
It's really bad if you get food poisoning.
I never made that comment as an attack. I made that comment as a question. I was saying I don't and I stand by that because I was saying I don't understand that rationale. Have I eaten bad food at restaurants? Sure, But still in all, I don't think I ever went to a restaurant where it was 45% bad. You know, I probably wouldn't be on this hangout. I'd probably be dead, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's why I was saying you're probably never gonna see me have anything really much below. I mean, I've reached into the 20s, but I haven't had anything that's actually gone down to almost 20. Because that has to be like horribly disgusting. That have to look like diarrhea with no head, maybe chunks in it. You know, and we're talking about a lager or something, and you know, have like complete off notes.
Right.
So
it can work, Michael. Michael, it can work as long as it's convertible, because 1 through 5 is convertible to 100. Oh, well, anyway,
Jay, the reason it seems limiting, even if you're doing, 3.5 and splitting it, but you have to be able to convert it, because otherwise the people who are hearing it don't understand what you're saying.
No, and when somebody tells me the beer's a 3.5, I say it's a 70.
All right. I'm sorry. This is the last time I'm going to talk, but I wanted to read. I found it. I didn't think I was going to find it. This is a viewer that watches my channel. I won't mention his name. I'm not trying to call him out, but this is his point about rating beer. And he says to me, to me, if I give a beer a 5 out of 10 rating, that is equal to a C on a letter grade scale, because it's 50% good and 50% bad, and a C is halfway between an A+ and an F. But I think you and Ronald and most other people would say that a 5 out of 10 or a 50 out of 100 is an F, which in school, of course, is an F. I have a notebook full of beer ratings, and I just give each beer a letter grade from A+ down to F instead of giving a number out of 100.
As long as it's consistent, right?
And that's a fair point, because the grading system that we're all used to, where it says an F is below what, a 65? That's not really fair, because you have 1 to 65, so you got 65 points right there, and basically that's equivalent to 0. So yeah, he has a decent point.
So Ron, you being an ex-teacher, you can do it. If people are getting in the 50s, they're going to be in trouble, and that's why you have to have a passing grade that's higher.
But unless you're on my scale, you're not even going
to graduate. You can count.
Yeah, they're not going to graduate. So then why use 100? Why use 1 to 100 if you're not even using 65 of those points?
You don't know anything. You're saying you took a history class and you only know half of what was in the class. Well, you don't need to.
Yeah.
Half isn't enough, I guess.
So I'll read real quick out of the book of the 50 point scale. This says, judging beer is the process of assigning a numerical value to the variable qualities of beer.
Well, wait, I don't want to interrupt you and be ugly. Hold on. Let me make this point, Jesse. We've been on an hour and 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even gotten too deep into the subject. This is not a 1 hour video. I had a feeling this was going to happen, and I'm not upset about it at all.
This is a very, in-depth conversation.
I think what we need to do, and y'all may not agree, but I think what we need to do is then, the first Wednesday in August, we need to go further into it.
Do a part 2?
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
What do you think, Jesse?
That's fine.
Part 2.
That's a good idea.
I think for replayability and for people that are, instead of doing 2 or 3 hours tonight, maybe splitting it up would be better.
Yeah, because people are going to say, I don't want to watch all that, but and once a month, if we look into it, they might, and maybe other people might want to join,
I'd like to go, and I'd like to go further into the comment that I just read, because 50% good and 50% bad to me is still an F. I had a viewer, I read the comment, was still very thought out. Still, he was not trying, he was trying to argue his point, and I appreciate that. But to me, that's still an F.
What you read out, John, was very insightful. What this guy is saying.
Yeah. Very, very good, well thought out comment. But
the 1 to 100
but it's still to me
that we all follow because that's what we've known from grade school. But who is to say that that's even the correct system to use? Just because we're all familiar with it doesn't mean that's the right thing.
Yeah, but when you start using rating systems that aren't familiar to everybody, that's when all these questions come up. Why not?
And use whatever system you want, but make it consistent.
True.
So make it
But
consistent.
be able to defend it, like Bumpy defended his tonight.
Right, and
Yeah, use whatever system you want. But
that's another conversation. If
yes,
that could be part 3 or 4. If you're going to make reviews and then you can't defend it and you get upset when people question it, I don't mean to attack it. I say question it. That's a problem. It's like, wait a minute, you're up here doing a beer review, and when people ask questions, I don't mean they attack you. They ask legitimate questions about your review, and you got touchy and defensive. I don't know. That's like a problem, you know. I think we need to look at that.
Can I make a closing comment?
Everybody here is showing their face. We're not hiding behind an alias or saying, I'm Mac Daddy 95 and y'all can all go to hell because I know what I'm talking about. And it's like, well, who are you? We don't need to know that. Well, yeah, we do actually, because you're
Mac Daddy.
Mac Daddy 95. Somebody hacked into my AOL.
it doesn't matter.
Damn.
Those are the individuals that you very rarely see. They don't very rarely talk about anything, but they come in. Those are pretty much trolls, I call them. And believe me, some names are just outright ridiculous. You know,
Yeah,
Victor Wang.
Victor Wang is.
No, Victor Wang is actually one of the good. He's pretty.
Yeah, he
good.
makes good comments. He actually makes good comments.
He's legit. He likes me. So he's
Victor Wang.
Yeah, Michael.
He made a comment to me.
don't pick on Victor. He's one of my fans. I don't.
Wait. We can get into all that later, because then it's going to turn into the 3-hour video that John and Millie and I want to
All right. That's fine.
But Michael, you had a closing comment, right?
Let me make my closing comment, Jay. Earlier you mentioned, and this is to a specific website and how they do it, Rate Beer, which I'm sure people have seen over the years. I cannot understand how they can rate Euro lagers 1 to 9 out of 100. And there's a bunch of them. It's not just 1 or 2. It's almost every Euro.
But they're in the pockets of the craft breweries.
Whatever reason. Now, Rate Beer is owned by InBev. It should stop, right? They own them now, so that should stop, I would think. But
No,
maybe
they're still using the same algorithm. They're still using the same algorithm. You know, so.
Now, how can you come up with that algorithm? Just the fact that the beer is, and you and I have had them. I think we've all had some Euro lagers. How can you rate something 3 out of 100, 7 out of 100? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know how you can do that. Okay, I'm looking at our stats right now. Here's a perfect example. I'm looking at our stats right now. We got 12 people watching, 7 thumbs up, 2 down. I don't care if they put two down, but like the people that put the 2 down votes. My question would be why? What's the problem with the video?
And the people who put the 2 down votes, why can't you come on here and say why don't you like the video?
Right, because you know my offer. I give people 30 minutes uninterrupted.
Well,
Jay, is Victor Wang there? Because he's one of my fans. I want to make
Did Victor Wang put the thumbs down?
no,
You don't know.
No, that's anonymous.
That's not disclosed.
No, don't say who it is. I mean, whatever. People.
What I'm saying is like the whole point about the reviewing and all, and you can't defend it. It's like I'm saying, well, what's the problem with the video? I don't like you. I don't like you.
well,
Why?
this is a whole nother conversation as well. We don't need to get off on this, but
No, I mean, but
the people that put the thumbs down are the Travis McGee's and the 33 Greenleafs, and the people that it doesn't matter what you say, they're gonna they use
Lee
fake names,
Russell.
they have multiple YouTube accounts. They're giving thumbs down because they don't like you. It has nothing to do with the content of your videos.
I'm
I
a
know, first it was about the content. All right, let's see.
on my Jim Beam examination or review, a guy gave me a thumbs down, and he come on there and told me why he gave me a thumbs down. I was boiling a pulled pork butt, getting ready to make tamales, and he goes, "I really didn't need to see all that in the background. That's why I gave you a thumbs down."
Bro,
Yeah, but
I'm like, okay.
It's a stupid reason. It's a stupid reason, but at least
he came forth and said something.
Yeah.
Right. It is stupid,
Right.
but at least he told you.
Right, it's sort of a ridiculous reason, but at least he was willing to say, here's the reason why. I've had videos where if people would have asked me, why didn't you like my video? I would have said, well, I couldn't hear you talking. You had all this music that was so loud. I couldn't hear. And I liked what you were saying, but I couldn't hear it. Those kind of things. I would, but okay, let's see these comments real fast. I'm going to go fast, y'all, and then we're getting off. Beer Nevada has several beers, in my opinion, that are 90% plus beers, says FACP. I would agree with that. Beer Hound says, cheers, Ron. Tim Bruce said, you must not know what I'm talking about. And then Adam Kennedy says, great conversation. Iron Man says, Ronald, the wine talked about in the Bible is always red. Was red wine around before white wine? I really don't know. Iron Man Spartan says, in dramatization. Then Tim says, Samuel Smith's product of England. Okay, I love those beers. Nick V says, I made it. Objectivity. Iron Man says, I like Grolsch. It's my favorite lager. Beer Hound says, don't rate beers that are in style you don't like. Now, I don't agree with that because there's some things I don't particularly like, but I think I have the ability to look at it within the style.
It depends. Yeah, if you don't feel like you're going to be able to rate a beer fairly because you don't like the style, then yes, don't review it.
Yeah, I would avoid it if I hated it that much, but I mean, I don't hate any style that much.
Right.
Subject Zero says, I find that my ratings are invalid if I have a few beers prior to evaluating. To give a fair rating, it has to be the first beer of the day. Okay. Makes sense. Nick V says, once we get through the flim flam, let's address the flu fluff. Like that idea. Once we get through the flim flam, let's address the flu fluff. I can't argue with that.
Well, have you ever heard of the Flim Flam Man?
No. Tim says, we like it all. Okay. Beer Hound says, I'm enjoying a Four Sons Brewing, the Great One Imperial IPA, watching you guys. Cheers. Cheers to you. Adam Kennedy says, I love sours. They are my all-time favorite brew. I also love Jenny Scream Ale. Jean, they are cheap and compared to hams for a cheap, delicious beer. Nick V says, what is the starting point for a style? I don't understand the question.
What?
Drewski
starting point for a style, everybody starts with the macros, right? Drink you a Bud Light, drink you a Budweiser, Coors Banquet. Anybody that's getting into beer should drink a macro first, in my opinion. Don't start with a craft beer. Don't start with a super hoppy IPA. Don't start with an Imperial Bourbon Barrel Aged Stout. Start with a Budweiser, a Coors Banquet, a Miller High Life. Start with something like that. That's my opinion.
Still your daddy's Mickey's Big Mouse.
Yeah. Drewski Brewski says, cheers, guys. Ronald's a riot, a.k.a. Terrio. Okay. And then Tim's Brew says one, the number one. Okay. Nick V says, how do we identify what is considered the best in style and where do we go from there? You can't, that's not possible. It's all opinions, I think. Beer Hound says, I use a 5-star rating system because that's what Rate Beer uses, which is 4 beers. But yeah, I mean, 5 stars fine if you can convert it, but you got to be numerate. And I think you are probably. Tim's Brew says there's 20 different kinds of beers to try them all. John, I agree with you. Nick Beeper says perhaps different expressions are equally exceptional and could be considered the epitome of the expression at the time while involved. Drewski Brewski says, just drink your beers, gentlemen. Wait. I went too far up. Y'all can hear me?
Yeah,
Can y'all hear?
I can.
Yes.
Crystal clear.
I can hear you.
Just making sure I was still
Yeah,
on.
pilot's going off, so I'm muted.
Drewski Brewski says, just drink your beers, gentlemen. Think about how much time y'all spend of your life bickering about your beers when you could be drinking them. Or we bicker and drink.
Drewski's just jealous.
Exactly.
He's a little upset today because the Jim Beam, the warehouse fire, it really,
Right down to where
Yeah.
Tim's Brewski.
yeah, it really hit close to home with Drewski, I think.
He's also upset because nobody stated any of their beers tasted like banana.
Right. Tim's Brew says, you would drink it today, but the same comes better tomorrow. Nick V says, haha, Tim's Brews, I agree. Cheers, says Tim. Drewski Brewski says, Here's Nick V says Bob Hendricks wants to say something. Why is he being silenced? Because we are communists. That's why. Now, Nick V says thrash metal homebrew and barbecue prost. Drewski Brewski said I just went out and bought 4.5 gallons of Jim Beam, and somehow I believe that. He said it's been good for about a week.
All I will say to that gentleman, enjoy. I'll say to that gentleman, enjoy your 4th of July.
4.5 gallons. How do you even like add that up? Because you're buying when you buy a bottle, what is the weight?
That's a
of the
lot.
bottle?
No.
Depends what size you get.
Don't ever question.
By half
Not
Don't
buying
ever
it
question an
now.
alcoholic on their amounts of booze that they're buying.
Enjoy the 4th. Enjoy your 4th.
Let them have it. Let them have their.
Bruce says, Tim Bruce says, I know Ron is
Hopefully he has a chaser.
Cocaine.
Tim Bruce says, I know Ron is a school teacher, but why do you rate beer as a school teacher? Because that's my only reference point. Nick V says, Beer Hounds, Beer Reviews, Testament, Demonic. Okay. How you doing? Noah says, Tip and Tea. Drewski Brewski says, Ron's haircut gets a 10 out of 10 from me. Well, I think you're going a little over.
Yeah. Real quick though, I'm not a school teacher, and I rate my beers on the school system. Everybody
Because
goes
you
to school.
were
in their life,
forced to
so-
go to school.
Everybody goes to school, so a lot of people, myself included, that's the only thing that makes total sense to me when it comes to my rating system. So
Not that it's right, but you
don't have to be a school teacher to utilize the school rating system. Everybody goes to school, and I would say for 75% of people, normal people that aren't, certified and beer reviewing and all this stuff, that's the thing that makes the most sense.
Now,
and Nelly, you're also hot for teacher, so that makes sense too.
Yeah, he's got it made. Now, Drewski Brewski said, okay, now, Nick V says, let's see, we got to get off of the air. Tiffany says, just thumb up your video. Can we have a quick discussion about gang stalking? Oh, no. Nick
No.
says, Ron gets a 12 out of 12 on my scale, and then 47.
That's 12 out of 12? What the fuck kind of scale is that? Sorry.
All this cursing. 47 straight says, I rate all you guys an A+, but I'm biased. Tim's Bruce says, that's what I meant. Brewski said, I meant 4.5 gallons. Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Just don't drink it
Like
all.
I said, you better have some chasers. You better have some chasers with that Jim Beam.
And then Tim's Bruce says, bye, Tim. We're getting off the air right now. Well, thanks, folks. We got a long way to go with all of this because it's just not enough time. We got a lot of things.
It's a good conversation, though. I like this.
Yeah, I do too.
Very good conversation.
We thank people from the West, the South, the North. We need some Midwest people now.
Well, we got Missouri represented here.
No, that's Kansas. So, but you're hateful.
Saga. Stout Sunday continues on Sunday, so everybody join John's channel.
It will. I will. Yeah, it will continue.
That's right.
Well,
Bring
the
your
rule
stouts.
is if he doesn't mention Stout Sunday, that means it's going to be.
If I don't say it's not going to happen, it will happen. Just to clarify, I'm sorry for the confusion.
And I'll be home this Sunday. Hopefully, I can get out of bed and.
I feel sorry. That's my own. That's my own.
Same here. Same here, Jesse. I'll get out of bed around 9:30 Central Time and join y'all for Stout Sunday. Will probably be my first Stout Sunday joining y'all.
It might, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You never joined, John?
I don't think so.
I have not.
I don't think he has. Yeah. But
look at Stout Sunday and learn some things now.
I know, man. Probably will.
Yeah,
I start my new job on Monday. I'm kind of very, very excited, and I'm looking forward to this new chapter in my life. So
good for you, man.
Maybe go out with start fresh with a Stout Sunday examination.
Yeah. I'm the same with you. I'm starting the new
y'all
job
all
on Monday as well.
Good luck both of Ronnie and John with your new jobs.
And so does everybody here agree that we probably need to look at this further maybe in August?
Sounds fine.
I think that this.
I agree.
I think we've already gone on too long with this one, but I think that we should do a 3-part series because I think that we got into the basic reasons why we rate beer the way we do. I think the next time we need to break it down a little bit further. But as much interest as this has gotten, and there's a lot of valid points with everybody on the panel, and there might be some more people that want to join next time. I think this should be like at least a 3-part thing for the next
3-hour
series.
tour.
No,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
we've done the first hour. I think next month we need to do a part 2, and I think the month after that we'll do a part 3. I think we could get it in 3 sessions. I think this is very interesting, and I think there's a lot more to be said about it. But I think we need some more time.
Yes, I think you're right because we can't go on forever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, folks. We're going to cut this off now. Bye-bye.